for them, and you do a preliminary reading of the Constitution so that people are aware of their obligation to it, as we are.
Okay. So as people come on, they show us the count. Then when a couple of people come on, I'll go ahead and start reading it. Sister every day. The councils from council. So, okay, coming on. Okay, so I spoke with the Emir while we were here, and I'd seen so much confusion, we'll call it that for now, on the issue of the consular courts. People raising
Consular courts.
The consular courts. People raising questions that, in many ways, are legitimate, depending on their.
All questions generally are legitimate. Right. However, the motives behind them may not be.
Right. So, because this is one of the most important, issues that's on the table at this point, I've seen it best that, while I'm in the company of the Emir, that we get it answered. So, before we start, we want to set the foundation as to what exactly is the foundation of what we're doing. And so I'm going to start off by reading the Constitution. So that
for the United States.
Constitution for the United States. Let me see how I can go back to the screen share here, because I want to bring it up to where everyone on here can see it also. Let's see where this button is on here. I think it took the button off when we went live or for some reason. I'll read it because you won't be able to see it, but I'll read it. It's Article 3. Okay, Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services compensation which should not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same claiming land under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subject. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same act, or on confession in an open court. We're going to go back. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attained. So with this, that's the foundation of the discussion. It's the foundation of anything we're talking about with the consular courts.
And so the first issue that's very clear is that consular court is Article 3 court. That's number one. Number two, clearly it is the superior to all inferior courts. And the fact that it has not been addressed, we already know why Eisenhower did what he did, amongst other things concerning consular court suspension, 1954 to 1956, which removed all venue for diversity. And they've been introducing the people to the civil rights subdivisional 14th Amendment courts under the municipal government of the United States private corporate operations in their subdivisional states of franchises under the United States Municipal Corporation, having nothing to do with Article 3 whatsoever. Now,
before you go in, let me pose the question.
Yes.
So they say, is consular court at North America, Morocco constitutional?
1.
Okay. 2, what courts of law deals with diversity? 3, what article and what section of the Constitution for governments at North America, Morocco expresses the obvious common law venue implying no debate as to the established article concerning consular courts? Those are the questions that everyone's been asking, and that's what we're going to be addressing here. So, I didn't interrupt you, but
Islam.
And is constitutional court and Article 3 court? We'll get into that also.
Yes. And has any of the questioners, debaters, dividers, critiques at all, at any time, presented to the people their established position in law that has shown that the people have the proper venue by which the controversies of Moorish Americans or any Asiatic at North America has been heard or can be heard? Name it. And show the evidence and back it by law.
That becomes one of the things that people were asking. And they kept saying, well, the consular court are for foreigners. And that that only a foreigner, has a consular court on this land.
All right. Key. Name the diverse parties in the controversy that they're implying. Name them.
They haven't given any.
Of course they didn't give any.
They haven't, no one has named that. Of course, they're just asking
Are
the question.
Are the questions predicated on the assumption that the Europeans operating at North America are the Americans and that we, the people of the land, are not?
Say that one more time.
Are the questions predicated on the assumptions that the Europeans who are operating government at North America are the legitimate government, are the Americans, i.e., and that we, the Moorish Americans, the Aboriginal people of the land, are not the Americans?
In most cases, it is. And
it's assumed.
Right. And if there's not that exact assumption,
the questions are predicated based on that.
Right. Exactly.
Are we and the Europeans one people? Or are we diverse? What is the proper court for diversity everywhere on the planet Earth? Where's the Consular Court clearly addressed in the Constitution that all of these same people and questioners are supposed to have been protecting and maintaining for all the people of the land, and particularly for their own people who have been abused? It's Article 3, very clearly. So they're questioning, the Consular Court are they questioning us or are they questioning that Constitution?
What they're questioning us, and not questioning us.
Of course they are, which means most of the questions are based on personal opinions and bullshit. And the fact that it's brought up, it causes many to have to look at the fact that these people, many of whom are now discussing this issue, have been irresponsible on their own right, because the fact of the matter is we shouldn't have had to bring the issue up. It should have already been established. Right. But since it's clear that we have traitors amongst us, and since it's clear that as has been brought up, all of a sudden the roaches come out the woodworks, it shows their insincerity, it shows incompetence, and it shows lack of support of a platform for diversity of their own people, which implies they have been participants in the abuses of their own people. Because if anything, they should have been adding to the platform to help get this work done. That's basically my response to the whole thing, because it's unquestioned, which is why we opened up with the enforcement of the Constitution. Now, I want to set this forth too. Many of the people who put question to this right now pretend that they don't know of the Act of Congress 1871. And for the honest listeners, and for the honorable Moorish Americans, the non-phony ones, who really love the people and who really been trying to help in the Moorish Divine National Movement, make sure that the common people are made aware of this issue and this argument. And we're seeking for them to participate in their own liberation and in reestablishing the Consular Court platform so that our people can really begin to get remedy. And many of the people who been all of a sudden coming out of the woodworks, let them start demonstrating their participation in helping the people and getting some work done, and spend their time more getting the work done than finding petty arguments to make.
The one thing that I want to throw out the other question, because to me it should be an obvious answer, but I know many may not be well studied to know the obvious answer. The question says, or the phrase that I've seen thrown out there is that you can only have a consular court once you have an established government first.
Oh, so now they're saying that the Moorish government is not established.
That's the implication.
I think Obama made that very clear when he went to Egypt. That's number one. I think the fact that Noble Ali commanded the Queen of England to meet her obligations to the enforcement of the Constitution relative to breach which is why he set up the old Canaanite temple, Moorish Divine National Movement overall, period. And why in the Divine Constitution and bylaws, with the Moorish Temple of Science and the Moorish Science Temple of America said being parcel, that's CEL, which means the land, ETC, of this government, i.e. being Moorish American, part and parcel of this government, we must live the life accordingly. And as we already understand too, the heart of the Moorish Divine National Movement, i.e., is to bring our people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States. And the Prophet warned us that if we had not done that, that the worst was yet to come. Much of the suffering that our people are experiencing in generations past, and in particularly in this present generation, because the Europeans' de facto governing bodies have been accelerating, liquidating the estates of Moorish Americans all across this country, which are people who pretend they don't understand what's going on and sit around and organize and have meetings talking about racism and prejudice, pretend that the gentrification of the communities is really not a liquidation of estates. In other words, they divert the argument and divert the issue, knowing that the issue is that our people have no call or no remedy in the venue that is properly constitutionally put forth for their remedies, and that's called consular court. If they'd spend more of their time helping to reestablish that consular court, our people would have a venue, because it deals with all controversies of which we or the United States should be a party, and we're certainly that diverse party. And these people who are sitting around understanding or claiming to understand nationality know that nationality is diversity, and that Article 3, setting forth the platform that already exists for that diversity, is an Article 3 court, and it deals with controversies of both persons and property. Now, for those of you who are not home, i.e. not in your country, I suggest that you go home to wherever your country is and appeal to your consular courts. But for those here who want to bring remedy to our people and get them out that 14th Amendment improper platform, 14th Amendment Negro Act platform, they've never received remedy there. And which is, again, why you have all of these people and opportunists selling packages trying to get remedy, trying to authenticate birth certificate, which is a fraud banking instrument that they will never get control of or otherwise. It only buys time for the corruptors and those among us who have been helping them and bleeding their own people, selling them UCCs and other issues, when the issue has always been the enforcement of that Constitution. I would suggest for the few who are out there who are sincere, like the Prophet Noble Ali said, help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. And within that, all questions are really answered. And if they want to question that, don't look at Taji Guy, look at Prophet Noble Ali, and look at that Constitution, of which they are either a party to or they're not a party to, because the law was established before you was even born. And that's the fact. And there really is no debate about it. Now, logically, and anybody with intelligence would understand that a de facto operating corporate entity proper Roman Curia members who are not the legitimate government, who have been governing over our people, and some of these same people that are talking trash go to them same people, that private corporation, and give them credibility and then want to question us. Got a damn nerve. Extreme damn nerve.
That's so true.
No, that's just simply what it is.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter, we're being courteous because we don't owe them a damn thing. We don't owe them even any, we really don't even owe them a response. However, we do know that there are a few honorable people out there, and we're taking this time for them.
Right, indeed.
And for the coming generations who have been neglected by a lot of the phonies before us and a lot of the phonies around us. Because that's the fact. Because Consular Court is Article 3. Question that.
And that's really the whole, like you said, the whole thing. My thing with taking the time to make sure that, we can sit down and have this discussion is because, as we all know, that these people come up to confuse the masses when the good is really being done. And you have a lot of new people coming in who don't know the answers. And they're new, they're confused, they don't know. So they need a way to be able to differentiate between who's saying what and so on and so forth. And there's so many of them out there that, we have to take a moment to address.
The two Granshik, Ramil, it's very simple. In support of, in response to that, we already know where we're coming from in our work that we've been doing. So we opened up by reading the Constitution in the first place. Your whole answers are right there. And you want some additional supports, or maybe some kind of comprehension in support of the argument that we're making now, because we're really not making an argument, we're just showing you evidence. Go to the divine warning by the prophet for the nations. And it didn't say nation, it says nations. Why? Because the issue is diversity of nationality. And Consular Court is the proper venue upon which diversities of nationality, of people of the same states in any controversy, or people of any foreign states of any controversy, is Consular Court. And without its existence, there is no proper venue for the controversies to be heard. Anybody has the nerve to say that our people here don't have controversies that have need to be heard, or that they have not suffered a lack of due process. We don't even need to respond to that because the whole record shows that we've been abused over and over again for generations. And anyone in the name of leadership that's even questioning that is either incompetent or they're damn traitors. Which is also why Article 3 deals with treason and traitors. Because the issue of controversy is diversity, i.e., what is diversity? It's called diversity of nationality.
Now, two people raised questions that I think are actually really good questions. One brother said the Supreme Court,
which would include Consular Court. So when you say the Supreme Court, you're talking Consular Court.
Said that, read Kevin Amos' actual question. If I can go back up and find it. Anyway, he said that the Supreme Court made a decision in 2011 that the Constitution was no longer usable in court. And that was
all right. Read Article 6 of that Constitution. Now, the Supreme Court does not speak. Some man spoke. Name the man and name his authority. Then read Article 6.
Okay, Article 6, go ahead. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. Now pay attention to this. the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And here's the phrase that you need to hear and understand. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. And anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. I'm going to read that again. The Constitution, this Constitution, and the laws of the United States, which shall be made pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding.
Now back up now. Back up what you just said. Back that up. One of the things that I want to say to you, brother, and this is when we first started, how people will say things, and people will bring up things to justify known existing corruption, and then try to contradict the Constitution or use the Constitution against itself to neutralize the Constitution. It's like, please. Anything they say to the contrary is notwithstanding. What you just identified is an anti-constitutionalist, an enemy of the state.
Let's see.
And you know what this represents again? What does what you just read and what that question proves what I'm saying to you. Now, in principle, I want you to read Article 10 of the Bill of Rights. Article 9 and Article 10 of the Bill of Rights. Which is still the Constitution. One of the things, and these the statement and the question is beautiful, because what it does, it opens up the venues that prove two things that people need to study, and it also shows that most of these people have never studied that damn Constitution. But the question is good for those who are coming in, but it also shows that they haven't been studying, because this stuff should have been given to them in third grade.
Obviously, they're not attending my class on Thursdays at 7 o'clock because we already went over this. You know, just being real, honestly. These are things that we
and it shows that they're unfamiliar with the rule of law. Is this our opinion, or is this the supreme law of the land that we're basing our arguments on? We're not even basing an argument. We're supporting the Constitution.
This is our instruction on the property.
Well, actually, and in the future, because we're doing this ad hoc, but basically the documents should be in front of us, and it should be in front of them. And it's not unlike we were talking about yesterday about trust, etc.
Which amendment did you say?
Bill of Rights, 9 and 10.
I'm sorry, traveling don't have all this stuff in front of us. On this new computer, I ain't downloaded everything. Okay. Bill of Rights, let's see, 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
So therefore, if persons in government fail to enforce the rights or any of the obligations already established, one, they can't succeed them. They can't supersede them. And all other rights are not to be assumed by them whatsoever. However, all other rights, including the enforcement of that Constitution, is not only retained by the people, but is your obligation. And since those persons clearly, and even when you listen to some of the comments, they're bluntly breaching the Constitution. So what is our duty to do? Claim the right. They breached their obligation in order to abuse us. That's why we're reestablishing consular court. They denying you the venue, not just us.
It says the powers, 10, the powers not delegated to the United States.
Not delegated to them. And they've been what? Most of the statements, these people are basing their opinions on people who clearly are exercising powers that were never delegated to them, and they're trying to tell us that that's the law? Please.
By the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
And we're the people of the land. We're not the corporate people. We're the people of the land. Now, I challenge anyone to prove that the Constitution for the United States supersedes the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and supersedes the Ordinance of 1787, i.e., and the Declaration of Independence and the Articles, etc., or as if they're separate, because they damn sure are not. That's backed up in Act 6, Article 6, obviously. Which is why when you ever make, whenever there's like say for instance, if we're playing Old Maid, card game, children's game, right? Or if we're playing Pinochle, right? For deck of cards, they have straight decks and they have Pinochle decks and stuff like that. And if there's controversy, and controversies always arise. And when you're dealing with people and nations, you don't deal with their private opinions. You deal with constitutions, and the written constitutions mean what they mean. They don't mean what we try to make them up to mean. Knowing that controversy will take place, and that people will, when they want to cheat or they want to undermine, they will start making up their own rules. This is where you have Act 6, Article 3, Article 6, 9, and 10 of that Constitution. And I suggest, and that's humbly suggest, that anybody that wants to question what we're doing, go to Article 3 of that Constitution, go to Article 6 of that Constitution, 9 and 10, in the enumeration of the Bill of Rights, and go to divine warning by the private for the nations, and then see who's supporting the Constitution, see who's supporting the movement, and see who the enemies are. Their opinions will show you who the enemy is, and the opinions will show you who the enemies are not. I've backed up everything I say with the law itself, not with some private opinion. I trust that you are doing the same.
And Lynn Antonio said, under the current system in place, should Moors be filing their claims at the U.S. Supreme Court pursuant to Article 3, Section 2?
All right. In answer to that question, I'll say this, number one, and make notes too. When questions like this arise, one should already be aware of or put on notice of the Act of Congress 1871, and that there have been no lawful courts operating at North America. So the answer would not necessarily come from me. The answer would come from your knowledge of what's going on. In relationship to truth and fact that's known by all scholars, all politicians, etc. Shakamoxon, or what you call Philadelphia, is still the capital for the United States. Washington, D.C. is not the capital for the United States Republic. Washington, D.C. is the capital operations for the private foreign corporation registered in Puerto Rico called the United States Service Corporation, and for the kingship oligarchy that the kingship oligarchs set up for themselves for the Jesuit order and the Popes of Rome and the Circle Church and Chancery, located on Fleet Street in London, and it encompasses 10 square miles, and it is private. And the people that are located in that subdivisional operations of Inquisition can't even vote because it's not part of the United States. So therefore, all de facto operations of human trafficking venues that have been called courts, and I know everyone who's sincere, who studied law and history, already know that. If there's an argument that one wants to present to a Supreme Court, I want you to recognize that it would be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And everyone should already be aware of that. And I won't even, put it this way, insult the intelligence of people if even tell you the exact location, because you should already know that.
Sister Tawa Lightfoot L asked the question, and I'm just going to give a very simple answer to it regarding the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and its legitimacy. And for those who are reading the questions, you can see it, but to just quickly answer, because it's just too simple to elaborate on, go back to...
Go read Article 6 and answer your own question.
Right.
And since anybody that's in the Moorish Divine National Movement or Moorish American, since that's at the heart of the movement, they should already know the answer to that.
Right. Let's go back to that. And
which is why we read them in the first place. But we shouldn't even have to do that. But we're doing it for the sake of newcomers who may fall victim to the confusers and those whose missionary work is to create confusion when there actually should be none. The only confusion really is the fact that it's interesting to notice how people are confused about us even making the issue about Consular Court. I've been doing it since '82 when I founded the Roundtable, which is what Lesson Book 14 basically is all about.
Trying to see if there's any other important questions before we get off of here and get our other aspects of our day started. Let me see here.
I would add this too. For anyone who's listening or any discussions that take place hereafter, make reference to the Constitution for the United States, period, and the Bill of Rights of all. Now, keep in mind, when anyone, we know that we have adults on here, but we also know that they're children, and children have a tendency to be more honest. Read the Constitution and read Article 6, and you'll see that the treaty and the Constitution are one. And when people treat them separate, it shows two things. They either have not studied the law or they're not in support of it. It's that simple.
I think this is a good, legitimate question that could maybe bring some clarity to, even going back to what the brother tried to present yesterday when he was talking about the trust. Brother Jermaine Farmer Bay said, can we explain the nation state that the prophet set up in 1928? Why Moors don't want to touch on this?
The nation state was not set up in 1928. Noble Ali brought us back onto the constitutional fold of government. The government already exists. It has been compromised. That's what the movement is about. You don't establish a nation. You don't need to establish a nation. You need to nationalize people who've been denationalized and don't understand nation responsibility. That's what this movement is about. The concept, one thing I recognize constantly is that people keep misrepresenting what Prophet Nobudrali did. Not necessarily because they always intend to, because clearly they haven't studied history. Clearly they haven't really studied the Prophet's work. In other words, you're part and parcel of this government that already exists. The nation didn't begin in 1928. It didn't begin in 1913. What you have are different aspects or changes that the Prophet was forced to make to deal with corrupt Moors that keep coming in this movement. That's all of this is. And once you study the things that the Prophet did, you will see there are different processes that the Prophet did, many of them not because that's what he wanted to do, because he was forced to make certain changes dealing with people who don't understand government. Or who, and collectively also, who were incompetent, unwilling, dishonorable, and in their lower selves for the most part.
One thing I'll add with many other questions too is that what I constantly see is that most people really don't understand the history behind the Constitution either, and us bringing them into
I comprehend
us bringing
that.
them into government.
Yes.
And
now,
that's an
hear
issue.
this out. All they need to do is study correspondences between Great Britain and the Moorish Empire that led up to the adoption of the Constitution. And preliminarily, to give some of the neophytes a fundamental basis, the finalization of the signing of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and the Moroccan Empire. You will see the record will show 1786. You will see the agreement on the formation and operations of government called the Northwest Territories, or the Northwest Ordinance, or the Ordinance of 1787, etc. Then you will see the first signatories representing the United States under the protections of Sidi Muhammad, etc. With the signing of the Constitution for the United States, 1788, and finalized 1789. So you got 1786, 1787, 1788, 1789. It's self-evident. And that don't even need deep study. However, you want more details, go ahead and do some research, but that's on the record. And then President Obama, for the United States Service Corporation, dignitary for the United States Service Corporation, being Kenyan and being a constitutional lawyer himself, exposed that the American Constitution come from Muslim law. But that's no secret in the world. Why people keep pretending they don't understand this or that it's vague, that's on them. But it's self-evident. But in a synopsis, that's answers for anyone. And the rest of the study responsibility is theirs.
And I challenge everyone with these type of questions to also slow down when you read the preamble. Just slow down when you read it. Just understand what a predicate is and prepositions and where the commas are placed. Just slow down. Because a lot of it, when I'm hearing it about the Constitution and how we fit in with the said government, us being part and parcel to it, even if you haven't taken the time to completely study the background, the preamble gives you a lot of the history. It tells you who's in power, but then you also need a background of the history of the wars that have been going on this land and all those things. And then that'll give you at least a basic answer of exactly what's going on.
Also, for some of the neophytes, just go to George Washington's papers and read one of his major letters issued at New York to the Emperor of Morocco. And it becomes very clear that you're standing on Moorish dominions. But why should we have to keep explaining fundamental things that the people should already know? After all, they talk about gods and Bibles and devils. They know all that. They should know current events. Because that certainly is current events.
Okay.
Because what you have in general, when you hear a lot of opinions of people, and they have a right to their opinions, but we're not here talking opinions, we're here talking facts. They're going to tell you about ancient gods, ancient devils, ancient Egypt, and they can't even tell you the common operations of government that's been affecting their lives physically in these days. That's a disgrace. That's predicated on common law principle, which says, how dare you keep having discussions about gods and demons, gods of the netherworld who you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters who you see by the day. Likewise, how dare we discuss the ancient past and we don't even understand the present. And so this is, again, why a lot of times when we're presenting certain things, I'll deal with what you call contemporary history to show you fundamental proofs. Deal with it.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. So we've got some other things that we've got to do.
In other words, we're busy. Y'all get busy.
So hopefully, y'all got enough answers to where when you're seeing these questions arise, you can answer them yourself. And I'm sure we'll address something again. Islam.